You're listening to Building the Broncos with Nick Kendell and Carl Dumler, Broncos country's leading draft and scouting analysts. Get on over to milehighhuddle.com to sound off on all things Broncos.
All right, welcome into Building the Broncos. I am your host, Carl Dumler, and of course, joining me is Mr. Nick Kendell. I know this is not our usual night. Kind of feels weird to be doing this on a Saturday, but thankfully, you guys were really flexible with me this last week and had some things with my day job that kind of came up. So you got the joy of seeing Luke and Nick on Tuesday, and you get the joy of seeing me here today. And so excited to talk some football once again. Man, I missed not doing it on Tuesday. It was really hard not to just be like, oh, I'm sick, I can't make the meeting.
It really does. It did throw me off, Carl. I won't lie. Yeah. It was very selfish of you to do that to me. Now, we were fine. Obviously, we missed you. But we're here today celebrating on a Saturday. I don't know how, again, it's obligatory weather talk. It's just been, we had a crazy rainstorm come through here. But you did as well? Okay. It's supposed to be super dusty this week, too.
Yeah. I saw something about how the Saharan desert dust is supposed to be coming through at some point.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting. We've had a lot of big storms. We had hailstorm. We had tornado miss our town by like 2 or 3 miles just a week ago. Had lightning strike a tree in my backyard. So
did you say running backs matter? And then God just tried to smite you? Carl, shut up.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, somebody's trying to get my attention. And so again, good to see everyone. Glad to be back in. I already see we got one here from Duke coming in. Appreciate the super chat there, Carl. Thank you for your prayers for my fam. Means a lot. And no problem, man. And glad you can tune in here today and get a chance to talk some football with us. And
I want to do this one real quick too. Ernie, he's first in the chat almost every time. Love the mustache, love the Broncos stuff going on. Denver Broncos #1. He says it almost every week. And gosh darn it, gets it more true every week as well. So
yeah,
thanks for the shout out, Ernie.
I always think of it as you close with Go Broncos, he opens with Broncos #1. Yep.
I love it.
Yeah, it works out perfect. And see, we got Robert in, Bobby coming in, Terry, a lot of the usuals. So I'm glad that's me being here on a Saturday instead of a Tuesday, still getting to see all of them. And excited to talk some football. Before we get to that, I want to make sure you can find us on Twitter because we love to talk to you whenever we possibly can. You can find me at Carl Dumler MHH and Nick at Nick Kendell MHH. And you can follow the podcast Twitter account at BTB Football Pod. Make sure you subscribe to our show wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a rating. Also, don't miss all of our great off-season content at milehighhuddle.com of the Maven Coalition and Sports Illustrated. Also know that our podcast is powered by Overtime Media.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
And I'm like I said, I'm pretty pumped up. I was wearing my Building the Broncos hat earlier this week and had a guy come up and he recognized me from Building the Broncos. And it was a great honor to have that kind of moment. So, we love you listeners. It means a lot for you to be joining us here today. And we got kind of a fun topic that's right up our alleyway. I mean, Building the Broncos, talking about the 2021 team. I know it's like, whoa, 2020 hasn't even started. Why are we talking about this? Well, it fits for both looking at the 2020 season. Yes, we are – and we're kind of like the GMs and the teams out there. They're always thinking 3 years in advance. I mean, you have to operate in 3-year windows when it comes to football. That's about when you really get to know what your draft class is, where you're going to need to add more players for the next few years. You're hoping that you're not drafting for absolute needs that year, but there is a chance the Broncos could be looking at a position for 2021 that we're going to talk – a couple positions, really. You came out with a big board of positional value and positions that the Broncos are really going to need here in 2021. And so let's just dig into that here. Let me start with this. Let me start with this question. How much of this is going to be an issue in 2020, and how much of your list is really just about looking at 2021?
Well, I think you're definitely right to ask that question because it's both the immediate and the future. I will say that I weigh the more pressing needs earlier on, so they'll be higher up on the tiers. But in the end, positional value, where you're taking these players in the draft based on their position, and looking at the Broncos, not just short-term but long-term, makes sense. Also, positions that you might need more than one guy in will get a bump as well. So there's not like a mathematical formula to it. It's a little bit more art than science. But I do think that this is a good conversation to have, and these are areas that the Broncos either have some depth questions, immediate questions with the starters, or something long-term. So we'll kind of tease that through as we go through the tiers. Yeah. We have 3 tiers to talk about.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, let's start with the first tier. You have 2 positions listed. And right before we get to that, Terry Randall, of course, wants you to get a good drink in. Thank you, Terry, for the hashtag Knicks Beer Fund. Got to get that in there. But, it's your first tier. You have offensive tackle and cornerback. Yeah. How much of this is for 2020? How much of this is for 2021? So, I mean, I think cornerback's probably 2020 need. Offensive tackle's more 2021. Not saying that they're set at offensive tackle, but do you feel better about the offensive tackle situation than the cornerback situation, or the reverse?
Man, that's a great question. I feel like they're about the same, but they're still different. Like, about how I feel about them, I trust Vic Fangio and Ed Donatel to be able to cobble together some good secondary there, or a good cornerback play, especially when you have the pass rush that the Broncos have, especially when you have the safety duo that the Broncos have. But in today's league, if you have weakness at cornerback, teams are going to be able to isolate those guys and pick on them. I mean, it's just how it is, especially in the AFC West. A lot of good weapons. One great quarterback, the other ones, who knows? But even with the weapons they have, you can still isolate guys. We saw that last year with Darren Waller versus Isaac Yiadom. I mean, yikes, isolated, picking on him. That's just how the passing league is in the NFL. So cornerback is more immediate, but it's also long-term as well. You know, both Bryce Callahan, if he struggles this year or is injured, he could be gone. A.J. Boye, 0 dead cap, he could be gone, especially if the cap number is going to constrict. So A.J. Boye with 0 dead cap, I think they can save $18 million for moving on from him. Something outrageous. So that, I mean, they might be forced to do that if there's cap issues with them next year. It's really on the table because of that 0 dead cap. So cornerback is both an immediate need and a long-term need. I feel like they can be okay with cornerback this year, just because last year we saw them get by with Dawson, Devontae Harris, Isaac Yiadom. I mean, the cornerback position last year, once Callahan went down, was an issue. And it didn't sink them. It hurt them, no doubt, but it didn't sink them. So I definitely think it's both offensive tackle in the same lane as far as injury concerns, because if Juwan James is healthy, that can make or break the entire offensive line. I mean, it really could, because when that happens, you can shift more help over to Garrett Bowles. You're just much more solid. You can't be that weak on both offensive tackles and thrive on the offensive line. You just can't. So that's definitely a concern that's similar to a cornerback, but I feel like we know more about Juwan James and Garrett Bowles when they do play than the just absolute question marks that we have with the Broncos at cornerback.
Yeah. I thought this was a good one for this subject from Wannabeast. Any thoughts of the workout from Bryce Callahan? I thought it was strange.
I mean, I guess it just shows that he's moving around, and that's good. He's not on a boot. Like if we saw him in a boot, panic, alarm bells going off, something like that. I think Elijah Wilkinson might be in a boot, or was in a boot. We saw him with one, which coming back to offensive tackle. That's another guy. I mean, he's coming up to I believe it'll be his last year of his contract. So not just worried about 2 offensive tackles. It's 3. It's compounded on each other. But Bryce Callahan, I mean, it's good to see him moving. Until I see him on the field, I'm skeptical. I want to see it. Go out there and prove it. Stay healthy.
Right. I will say I got to see him before he got hurt at training camp last year. He looked phenomenal. Good. Like he honestly looked better than Chris Harris. Now, I don't think Chris Harris was going 100% during training camp because, I mean, veterans, there's always a big difference. Veterans that have done it, they're more going through the motions. This is, hey, we're just trying to stay healthy to get to the season. But Bryce Callahan, he looked really, really good. And even had his reps going against Emmanuel Sanders, Cortland Sutton, and holding his own against those kind of guys one-on-one. So, if he can be healthy, that's a huge boost to this roster, in my opinion. Just because then it also moves every other cornerback down one spot. I mean, that's the other big part of that is it's not just one slot that changes. It's lots of them. But it's a workout. Guys are going to make themselves look well. They're not going to put – I saw who was it? Dwayne Haskins throwing to Jerry Jeudy. I'm guessing there's probably some throws that he missed. He's not going to put those on video and say, hey, look how I'm doing. Yeah, you suck. He's not going to do that. He's going to show the one, hey, look at this 50-yard bomb that's right on time. I'm doing great. That's just kind of how it is. I look at Cam Newton. He's been putting out a lot of workout videos, and he looks great. But again, until you see him actually on the field and guys flying around, it's kind of hard to really trust that they're okay.
There's, I think, a common adage, as you'd call it, that, there's doing it in practice, there's doing it in preseason, and there's doing it in regular season. Well, heck, this is a step before that. There's doing it by yourself in these really controlled environments, and then there's doing it in practice and regular season or preseason and playoffs. So, my mother coming in. Hi, guys. Hello, Mom. Send more cookies. We also got Robert Caslow coming in. What's up, my fans? All right, thank you. There we go. Abby always coming in. Hi, guys. How are you? I'm doing great. I'm a little bit hot and stinky right now, I'd say, probably more than anything, outside of the dog when it's been humid and raining and stuff. And, of course, we took a bath gave him a bath and then it poured. Now he's all muddy. But, that's the puppy life probably. Yeah.
No, I'm doing good. I got some steaks seasoning right now, getting ready for after the show to sit down with a couple guys. My wife and kid are gone. So had a little time to actually sit down, play some video games, which I haven't done in like a year. So yeah. Oh man, look at that. Carl, your beard and hair are epic this evening. Thank you. I do try every once in a while.
I was complimenting on him before we started. I'm like, Carl, I'm a little bit aroused here. You're looking pretty good. You need to calm down. But back to the conversation at hand. So would you agree with that? Cornerback and offensive tackle right now, let's say it was just a normal draft class right now. You have a chance at pretty much the same level player at every position. Obviously, when the draft actually happens or offseason actually happens, it depends on who's available. It's not everybody the same tier. But right now, if let's say there was a bunch of even players, you would just pick a generic first-round offensive tackle or cornerback. That'd be the direction to go. Yeah,
it would. I mean, I can't think of any other position other than if like there is that guy that's way above the others. You had posted the other day something about linebackers are the running back of the defense, except for this one guy. Like if he was there in the first round, I would take him from Penn State. And so there are obviously those exceptions when it comes to that. But when you're talking about everybody even across the board, those are the two positions that I'm looking at and saying, man, those need somebody. They need an influx of talent, of young talent to really get things going in the right direction.
So I guess the question could be, what could happen this season that could change these tiers? Who could emerge offensive tackle, cornerback that could kick them down to tier 2? I mean, I'd still think it would be a need because those two positions outside of cornerback, you could argue either of them is the most important position. There's obviously edge rusher and wide receiver as well. But what could change this season that would make offensive tackle and cornerback kick down a tier?
Offensive tackle, I can't see it kicking down unless Bowles emerges and they sign him to a long-term contract and say, yep, that's our guy for the next 3-4 years. Juwan James stays healthy. That's asking a lot. That's the one position, and especially I don't see any backup that gets me excited, that makes me go, yep, that guy could really emerge into something.
Calvin Anderson can solve a Rubik's Cube. That means he's going to be great, right?
There's the guy.
I can't do it, so.
But no, it's still cornerback. At least there's some young guys that you can see really emerging, and it helps when you have like a Vic Fangio, Ed Donatel, who have made a great career out of making some cornerbacks some real money. But Ojemudia, of course, he can emerge and become a great cornerback. That's thinking of
Bosby.
Yeah.
Maybe Yadam could emerge. I mean, he's been up and down, but I mean, there's still traits there.
Yeah.
That you never know. Duke Dawson, more of a nickelback, honestly, more of a safety type of guy.
Right.
Devontae Harris. Yeah. I mean, there's names like you were talking about. There's names. Maybe.
Right. And each of them have shown things at different times.
Yeah.
Like Devontae Harris, he had a couple games that were actually pretty outstanding. He kind of fell off as the season went on and teams figured out how to attack him. But, those are things that he could work on that maybe make him at least a middle tier kind of cornerback moving forward. Nice depth piece. But so I would feel better about the depth at cornerback right now, at least emerging for 2021, than I would about offensive tackle. I think offensive tackle, there's almost no case of how you're going to fill that in 2021 without using something in the draft.
That being said, cornerback is much more of a rotational position where that third and fourth cornerback, you're gonna need them. You are. Where that third or fourth offensive tackle, can you justify that first round offensive tackle not starting year one? Where cornerback, if it's that third guy, that's great. That's a starter. Offensive tackle is not the case. So something to think about. Also, that's something that you think about with a lot of the defensive positions in general. There's honestly only one defensive position, well, kind of two, but one specifically that they're taking them off the field more and more, and that's the linebacker. So you need to have a special guy to justify that. And I've got some, obviously, before we get to tier 2 here, got some comments going to hit first. Jody, I'll try to lay off Bulls tonight. Jody, it was the perfect night to poop on Bulls. We're talking about how offensive tackle is the biggest concern going forward. Poop away. Let's not lay off. I love the passion. As long as you can back it up with, good takes instead of just feelings, do it. I'm about it.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right. And Eclipse Stormborn. There we go. Wow. I like that name. Happy Saturday, Broncos builders and Broncos country. No questions tonight. Just checking in, showing some love. Hashtag state of being. Hashtag let them hate. Hashtag 8K on the way. Awesome. Absolutely.
Good to see you. Carl got it right on the first try.
I did. I know that's a huge win for me. All right. Gio coming in here with another super chat. Hey guys, glad to tune in tonight and show some support. Carl, what video games did you play? Ooh. So I did some zombie killing with Call of Duty, and I'm going to play some Madden tonight after some steaks. Haven't done that for a while, and I got burned out on Madden because obviously they need to update the game a little bit more, and I go back and forth every year whether I'm going to buy the new one because I like to play with the rookies, but is that enough to spend $60-$70?
I put in the time and make the rookies. I will find somebody in free agency that's the right height and weight, and then change the name, the number, make the attributes somewhat what I would put them as, and go for it. So heck, we have some Justin Strnad questions coming in. Guess what? Justin Strnad's a backup linebacker on my Madden right now. I think I have Madden 16, so it's way back there. But when I can just update it myself instead of spend $60, I'm going to do it. So, but I've been playing Fallout, honestly. I've been taking care of the puppy, and if Natalie's gone to bed or she's been working and I've had a little bit of time, been playing Fallout. I actually got the Far Harbor DLC, which is pretty fun. I've been enjoying the heck out of that. So what was the question here? Somebody, I think it was Kenneth Booker. I see a question here from Kenneth. Give you a shout out. I don't know where it's at, but he asked about the potential of Justin Strnad moving to a strong safety position, kind of being that TJ Ward kind of linebacker. So what are your thoughts on that? Kenneth, I'll try to find that comment and highlight it here when Carl answers.
Well, a 40 time is not everything, but 4.8 speed at safety, I think that's asking a lot of him. I think he has some great coverage skills. He's got the number one quality that I look for in linebackers and instincts. Yeah, he's smart. He's got instincts. He's not the read and react. This is why we talked about it on draft night, why we weren't a big fan of Kenneth Murray. Like, the guy's an athletic freak, but every time it's see ball, go after ball. Well, in the NFL, see ball, ball's gone by you.
That's Chiefs. Yikes. He gave up as many big plays as I thought he made. He made great splash plays, but then he was out of position half the time. Right. That's where it was going.
Right. I always think of one of my worst evaluations was a linebacker for that New Orleans took in the first round. And, his highlight tape was off the charts. His big plays, he was blowing people up. But I didn't pay attention enough to how many times he was out of position and really over-exaggerating on plays and allowing those comeback plays all the time, and just making me go, okay, this guy doesn't have great instincts. He's just a great athlete that's playing football. And again, you can get away with some of that in college. In high school, you can absolutely get away with it. NFL, everybody is an athlete. And so that's why I'd view him more as that true 3-down linebacker that fits what today's NFL is. The guy that can cover the middle, that has good instincts, has good first step quickness, and is a good tackler. He's not going to be outstanding as a run defender, but he's not going to be a huge liability either. And so I would keep him at linebacker. You're still going to have almost every single play a linebacker on the field in some form. So I don't think he has to really move around. He can maybe move into that strong safety spot every once in a while, but it wouldn't be the main position I would have him playing.
I just don't think he's got the jets. I don't see the movement skills sideline to sideline where you have even more responsibility of that with strong safety. And also coming back to it, is there a fit for a TJ Ward role in the Vic Fangio defense? I mean, with how much, match quarters coverage, that position is not on this defense. That how they utilize that guy is not on this defense. So maybe you could see it in really like a light nickel packages. But then again, why not put an actual safety or a cornerback out there with more athleticism, more coverage ability? So, I mean, Strnad, chance to be a player there, but 5th round pick, not the best Jets. Smart, but I mean, Josie Jewell's a smart player.
Yeah.
And not big enough, not fast enough. He's just not a starter. So we'll see. Again, 5th round pick. If he becomes a starter, that would be outside the door. That would be beyond expectations. Yeah. So
I mean, they always say after the 3rd round, it is an absolute guessing game for every team. If you hit on a guy, there's more luck than actual work involved. That's the truth of the situation. Everybody knows the top 100.
Yeah,
it's after that things really begin to I guess, take case. And like I said, just it becomes a lot of luck. But Terry Randall coming in here with another super chat. Round 1 cornerback, round 2 cornerback. Take advantage of a deep class. Hashtag horses world. Oh, Broncos. Broncos. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I'm not an emoji guy.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of equestrian chicken padlock going around.
I have seen that one. I do know that one. But, I don't know if the Broncos can.
They could. I mean, it depends on how the board falls. We're this far out. If the best players cornerback twice and you want to go that way, by all means, you need rotational guys there.
If you had asked me at this time last year, Broncos are going to go wide receiver rounds 1 and 2, I would have said you're crazy. Yep. And they did. I mean, it just that's the way it fell. We'll see whether that was the right decision or not, because sometimes using that much draft capital on one position really begins to show up on depth on other positions. But I don't know. We'll just have to kind of see how that plays out for the Broncos. I like the way it's going to – I like the players they took. I just don't know if, again, using that much capital on one position was worth it.
And do want to give a shout out to Duke here. 2 of my kids got the word became official on Thursday. Don't want to give any statistics or anything like that. Just give you our support, man. That's scary. Hopefully they will fight through it and keep us in the loop, man. That for real. Here's a question coming in from Jody. Who's one guy we could sign because CV could sit a starter for up to 3 weeks? That's the word we can't say again. Gosh, that's a good. It depends on if any position group gets really hit. I just keep coming back to Darqueze Dennard. I really like him for this defense, and at cornerback's a position where even just getting, let's say he's the 3rd cornerback this year, that would just make the whole unit look so much better. Now, maybe you're wanting to keep some of that flexibility in the cap, not sign him. That's certainly an area, but that's the guy who sticks out to me.
If Locke would get it, would you go and sign a quarterback, or would you just say, Driscoll, you're our guy?
If you're talking, you need to sign that guy now, if that's going to happen. Because even, let's say Cam Newton's the guy, Locke is out for 3 weeks because of illness. But what are you going to do? Like, how good is Cam Newton going to be able to be coming in and not knowing this offense at all, not having any chemistry with the receivers? At that point, you might as well just sink or swim with Driscoll, in my opinion. So, good.
Well, and you're right. I mean, that's quarterback's that position. You just can't. You can't just step on the field 1 week and expect that you're going to perform at a high level. Just the offenses are too complicated. The chemistry with players is too important. There's just so much that plays into a quarterback having success. I mean, that's why Drew Lock getting together with these guys right now is so important. I know the NFLPA came out and said we don't recommend that anymore, and I don't know if it sounds like Judy went back to Florida from what I've seen. And so some guys are kind of breaking apart until training camp. But yeah, just even a few weeks of getting some time together makes a huge difference. If you got 2-3 practices before a game, that's not going to be enough to have success.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And we want to hit some of the people coming in saying hello. We want to say hello back because that's the kind of guys that we are, those Midwest vibes. Steve White coming in from Germany. Guten Tag von Deutschland. Go Broncosland. Steve, appreciate you. That's actually got my Germany World Cup shirt on right now. So let's get it.
What? Me? Oh, never mind.
Golf, always got the golf shirts on.
I do. My mom.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. My mom always buys like 3 or 4 every month for me. So I've got like closets full of just golf shirts. Well, so that's why I'm always wearing them. Hey, they're free.
It's true. You got to talk to my wife. My mom gets me shirts sometimes too. And she's like, you don't need more shirts. Well, you know what? Thank you, Mom, if you're watching. Yeah. I like my shirts. No, I'm going to hear about that later. We had, I'll come back to you. Dave. Hey, y'all. Good to see you, Dave. I've seen you around here before. And we had one coming in here. Oh, from your land. Andy Rock Lovato. Hello from Kansas. Picture with Rich Eisen. Love that. So, yeah. Let me see. Tier 2. Actually, we should get to some of these super chats first.
Yeah.
Here we go. Pabby coming in. Hey, Nick and Carl. Thank you for the awesome pod. It's very entertaining. We look forward to listening to you guys talk Broncos every week. Love MHH family as always. Go Broncos. Pabby, hope things are going well in Des Moines. Appreciate you. And, man, I mean, we're happy you guys are joining us every week, too. We're just happy to be here and anybody gives a damn. So that's the craziest thing. We're just some dudes talking football. We love you for it. Eclipse coming back in. Just want to rub it in my cousin's face that Brian Dawkins had the best statistical season with the Broncos, not the Eagles. LOL. Do you guys remember that? I do remember that. Brian Dawkins was great for the Broncos. I remember a really good season with Brian Dawkins. I think the Broncos, they played the Eagles. Did they end up winning that game? I remember it was like a hyped up game. It was around Halloween. I remember it being like around Halloween.
I can't remember if they did or not.
Okay.
Well, it's really, if you look, the Broncos have maybe had the best safety history in NFL history. I mean, of course, you got Steve Atwater, you got Brian Dawkins, TJ Ward, now you got Justin Simmons. They had GM for the 49ers. Oh my gosh, why am I spacing his name?
John Lynch. I
mean, you look at that list, like that's the who's who of safeties. If Ed Reed had joined the Broncos at some point, now given most of the guys, it was after their prime of their career. Of course, you had Steve Atwater during his prime, but there was others that, it was kind of the end of their career, but they still were able to produce. And I do love that a lot of guys have come to Denver, had some of their best statistical seasons. I mean, Peyton Manning had his best statistical season of his career in 2013. So it's nice to see that they can come here and have a lot more success.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got Ruan Pablo coming in. Nick, who is the best offensive tackle in next year's draft class after Sewell? I've watched a good amount of guys who are going to be 2021 prospects, but a lot of times I won't try to make hardcore opinions unless a guy I've been exposed to a lot, like a Trevor Lawrence or a Micah Parsons. So I kind of let it come to me. I guess the one who'd come to mind that I feel the most comfortable saying is the second best would be Alex Leatherwood. But, I mean, you could see Samuel Cosme from Texas take a big step. Alaric Jackson, last year he had an injured knee, and he's got really good tools, a former basketball player. Walker Little is a guy who's interesting. So I feel like I'd be the most comfortable with Alex Leatherwood right now. But
he's a safe pick.
Yeah, that's
he was going to be a first-round pick this year.
Yeah.
And his skill set, his size, everything translates well to the NFL. So, that would be an easy pick, one that I think a lot of people were even looking at for the Broncos before he decided to go back.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Yeah, good point. Jeremy Bobriff coming in here. Would you rather have the Alabama corner Surtain or Boye starting next year? Why not both? No, honestly, I like Surtain a lot, but I would take Sean Wade or Caleb Fairley over both of them. I've done some more work on the early cornerbacks, and I like Surtain, but Fairley looks pretty darn special. And Wade, I don't know if Wade fits every defense. I do want to see how he plays that boundary this year. Sean Wade for Ohio State, for your listeners if you're not aware. But I think at worst case, you could get kind of a Micah Parsons or Micah Fitzpatrick kind of a safety cornerback hybrid back there where he's going to play some nickel, he's going to play some safety if he doesn't work at cornerback, and that'd work really well for the Vic Fangio defense.
Yeah, like I said, why not both? I always have a little bit of concern with Alabama players. for two reasons. Well, and I do have some concerns with Jerry Jeudy long term. I mean, we've heard a little bit about some knee concerns, and I mean, he's had a couple injuries that slowed him down at different times. The drops obviously are a concern, but it's more, I know that Alabama works their players to the bone. I mean, they do. And hey, they get great success, but they have a lot of players that end up having a lot of injury histories when they come to the NFL because Alabama's like, we're going to use you as much as we can to win our championships. And so some players have played injured and got themselves more hurt. The other thing is, especially the defensive side of the ball, they have a great scheme, and they have a lot of five-star talent that makes life a lot easier for their cornerbacks. And so sometimes with their cornerbacks, I just worry about how well can they translate them to the NFL, where there's going to be a lot more responsibility put on them, where with Alabama, it really is use your size, use your length, use your speed, your athleticism, make sure you just don't get beat over the top.
Yeah.
If you can do that, we're going to win a lot of games.
Still got to evaluate the jersey, not the helmet, as they say, the old scouting.
Right. But like I said, it is a little bit when you've seen enough guys come through at one position and have some of their struggles in the NFL that were really covered up a lot in college. So that's why they're a school that is always hard to evaluate, because there is so much talent. Is it really because this guy's that much more talented, or is it because he's got so much talent around him he looks really good?
It's a good question. I mean, that's always that's chicken or the egg, right? That's one of the key questions when you're evaluating those guys. Before we move on to Tier 2, man, the comment section's been great. We love you guys. But Tier 2, we want to remind you guys to subscribe and like and share, so that way we can keep bringing you these shows. Drop the like right now, drop the heart, subscribe on YouTube. We're trying to get to 10K before the season starts. Lord knows when that's going to be, knock on wood, but would really appreciate that. And if you guys do appreciate it, or if you guys do, we love you. We appreciate it. Go to huddleuppod.com. This is from Chad. Get your swag on. A little dorky for me. No, I'm just kidding. If Chad's listening, I'm giving you a hard time. But I absolutely do love the tricolor with the white here. I mean, it pops. Yeah, I'm afraid to wear it outside because it pops so nice, especially with the white and with the puppy. He likes to bite rims of the cap. Found that out the hard way. And this is Huddle Up Podcast, guys. We appreciate you guys coming in, and we got another 20 minutes to go, half hour to go. So let's kick it into high gear. What do you guys think of Adebo from Stanford? This is a good question. I like Adebo's ball skills. I just wonder if he has the foot speed or the hip fluidity to stick in the scheme. I feel like he might be a pure cover 3 cornerback. Last year when he played UCF, Gabriel Davis toasted him many times because Adebo did not have the speed to keep up with him vertically. And if you're having that issue against a round 4 wide receiver, I believe it was, playing at UCF, good freaking luck in the AFC West. I mean, this has become an track division. There's track stars everywhere, not just a wide receiver, but a tight end too. So I could see him, but I don't know if he has the off-ball ability or the ability to cover guys vertically that you really, quite frankly, need. Right.
Sorry, I just wanted to get that one in there before we went to Tier 2, because that is another big cornerback name that kind of has had a really up and down college career.
Yeah.
And times of greatness and times of absolute getting embarrassed. Anyway.
Positions that we had Timo Riske from Pro Football Focus on for one of our podcasts, one of the last ones that wasn't live, where we talked about NFL teams and their ability to hit positions, but just the correlation between good players and where they're drafted. And there was no correlation for running back at all because heck, you can find a fifth round guy, undrafted guy, plug him in. And sometimes they're as good as those first rounders. I mean, what has Sony Michel done to the date so far? And then linebacker, you can find just as good of ones round 2 and 3 as you do round 1 historically. That's just the trend. Cornerback, offensive tackle, edge rusher, those positions, if you're not getting them round 1, odds are they'd have to be such an anomaly to make it in the NFL. Such an anomaly. That's what makes Chris Harris Jr. incredible, because to get a cornerback, typically those guys, because they're so one-on-one matchups, you get the cleanest evaluation of them.
Yep.
You know if they can hang or not.
Right.
So
you look at John Elway. He's had 2 top 5 picks, both of them used on an edge rusher. He knows the value of that position because and really after about the first 15 picks, if you find a guy, that is absolute luck.
Yep.
It really is, because you have to have a guy that is athletically gifted on top of also coming in with some different skills and
right.
And that translates well from college to the NFL. If they did well at it in college, good chance they're going to do well in the NFL at it too. Rarely do you see a guy that struggled in college all of a sudden shows up well in the NFL. Just doesn't happen. But all right, let's get on to tier 2 here.
Jody coming in again. Jody's probably two guys that I think are a little bit too pooped on for what they bring in comparison to teams that actually have real struggles in the NFL at the positions. But linebacker, honestly, is on tier 2 for me, off-ball linebacker. I listened to, actually, I sometimes listen to other podcasts, but Cody Alexander, one of the better match quarters at modern-day defenses, coaches out there, was actually an assistant coach for defensive quality control and scheme at Baylor and under Art Briles, which, that went downhill. I don't know if you guys know the history there. We won't have to go into that, but that was bad. But Cody Alexander, the brilliant defensive mind, was written, I think, 3 or 4 books. Anyway, he was on a Broncos podcast, and he discussed the Broncos defense, the match quarters, the cover 7, and made me much more concerned about cornerback than I was going into it, but also made me concerned about linebacker, where, I think Todd Davis and Alexander Johnson both are good, above-average linebackers. I think Todd Davis probably a B-. Alexander Johnson, he's probably a B- right now, but he has a chance to be a B+. Because that size that he has, the ability to blitz, the instincts. He's a big guy, too. How big he is matters, especially in the red zone. But they don't complement each other well. Yep. It'd be like playing 2-on-2 and in basketball, and you're going with like 2 centers. You have nobody who can shoot. You have nobody with ball skills. So even though they might be 2 good centers, they just don't mesh well together. And I think that's the biggest issue with Todd Davis and Alexander Johnson, because neither of them thrive in space in coverage. Now, Todd Davis, credit to him, last year he was one of the top 5 linebackers in playing slot snaps, which if you watch Todd Davis, that's not ideal for him. He was being thrown out there because they did not have the guy to fill that position. There's a reason the Broncos looked at Patrick Queen. So I think that Todd Davis and Alexander Johnson are okay. They're fine. But if you can get a coverage linebacker for this scheme and add some speed to that level, that second level, it could be such a difference maker for the overall defensive scheme. Yeah, no,
I'm with you there. That's why it is still a position of need. And you hope that Sternard can really develop into that coverage guy for you, but he's still going to have his limitations. Yeah. You look at the best coverage linebackers in the NFL. They have great instincts, they have good length, and they have athleticism. They have the 3 things you absolutely need. You have other guys who are good, not great, because they're missing one of those qualities.
Yeah. To find a 3-down linebacker is rare. There's a reason that both those Devons went round 1 a couple years ago. There's a reason that I was absolutely infatuated with a guy like Tremaine Edmonds a few seasons ago, Leighton Vander Esch. So maybe the Broncos can look at linebacker this year. That being said, typically you can find a linebacker day 2. I saw somebody earlier, I think it was Kenneth Booker, talking about how Jake Butt went 1 pick before George Kittle. And while that one does keep me up at night, and the next one wasn't even a real possibility, but Fred Warner going 1 pick before the Royce Freeman pick absolutely eats me up. Man, can you imagine how good this defense would be if they still had Fred Warner? Or if they did have Fred Warner, not still.
Yeah. Yeah, that would completely change the makeup of the defense. It'd be night and day when they can't throw to the middle of the field, because really the Broncos at that point would have the best middle of the field with Justin Simmons, Jackson, and of course Warner. You can't throw to the middle of the field. You're going to have to throw to the outside. And when cornerbacks can shade to the inside and make them force to the really outside, it just makes life so much easier.
Yeah, and talking about, you can find linebackers day 2. I think Bawana Beast came in first year, said the Browns took Mack Wilson round 3, and then Bill corrected him round 5. There was some real concerns with Mack Wilson's ability to jive with coaches. Let's just put it that way. He had a few run-ins as well, and I think that talent that you saw on the field, there was probably something that was going on there from the coaching staff to the NFL as far as him falling that far. Yeah. So, there was smoke there. There's more than enough smoke there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was trying to look up some free agents. I can't bring up the list right now because I saw somebody ask. Oh, here we go. Now we got a list. Levante David, KJ Wright, Demario Davis, Hassan Reddick, Devontae Campbell. Yeah, really, if you wanted a coverage linebacker, this past free agency class was the one to do it. There were some decent names that hit the market. But I think even there, you're seeing teams feel like they can find somebody that's comparable just in the draft when they're willing to let guys go that have shown decent skills in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And Jeremy coming back. And I want to see the Broncos go after Darren Lee, who is a free agent. Darren Lee just never clicked. I don't know if he has the physicality to hang. He actually is a weird player because at Ohio State, he was he was a slot. He was a linebacker, but he was a slot. And in the college football game where the passers are not as good and there's much more kind of option runs going on, more run heavy, getting a linebacker playing that slot position, you can get away with that a little bit more. In the NFL, though, with how good the passing games are, with how precise that slot player can be, can't get away with that. Trade the farm for Parsons. Guys, he's a fun player, but he's an off-ball linebacker still. I mean, the only position you're trading a farm for is quarterback.
I brought this up because Bill earlier had said trade the farm for Sewell.
Okay, that one I'd have to think about.
Yeah.
It's still, though, I always come back to Joe Thomas, thinking about offensive tackle. Like one great offensive tackle, that's fantastic, but it takes a line. So trading the far, like if you trade the far, let's say Joe Thomas equivalent at quarterback, you're competing for Super Bowls. Joe Thomas, the left tackle for years, Browns one of the worst teams in football. So while it's great to have a great offensive tackle, it still takes 5 guys.
It does. And that's, even though it is one of the more valuable positions in football, it just shows, again, how much the tiers are quarterback and then everybody else.
Because quarterback is good enough to be like the first 3 tiers.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It just makes such a difference. And so Kevin Peterson coming in here with Super Chat. Appreciate it, Kevin. Do you guys think we have a 3 or 4 year window for a Super Bowl? We're so young and they'll all need to get paid. Yeah.
Probably.
This is, I mean, when you have a quarterback that has potential, this is what you do. You go all in. I mean, even the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, he'll get paid buku bucks.
Yeah.
And honestly, the roster will be hurt when that happens. He'll still be able to compete for Super Bowls because he's the top quarterback in football. It's kind of like Peyton Manning. He could have a terrible roster around him and still compete for Super Bowls. I mean, he had some terrible rosters around him, and he still was at least a playoff team. Quarterback is good enough to get you in the playoffs. Full roster is what wins you Super Bowls. And right now for the Broncos with Drew Lock, even if he's just an above average quarterback, you can still go win Super Bowls if you got a great roster around him. And the Broncos have some potential, but that word potential is a very explosive word. I mean, it could go either way. We all like to think Jerry Jeudy's going to be a great wide receiver in the NFL. We like to think KJ Hamler is going to be this absolute stud going deep down the field. But we don't know. They haven't taken a snap in the NFL. There's been some other wide receivers that I thought were going to be great players in the NFL. They didn't work out. I was one that was high on Kevin White. Now, given his was a lot of injury issues more than actual play on the field. But I thought this athletic freak, this guy's going to come in and really dominate the NFL. He didn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I said, the Broncos have a great window here. Just it's going to take a lot of guys living up to the hype to make it happen.
Yep, you're definitely right there. So I would think maybe that Super Bowl window, 2021 and 2022, I think would be the years. And Zach Cunningham McMillan.
I'll take Zach.
Zach Cunningham, who also I think he went 2 picks after DeMarcus Walker, and I was pretty upset about that. So we'll see. But yeah, back to tier 2 here. So tier 1 offensive tackle. Let me see over here. Cornerback. Tier 3, I have 2 also. So we talked about off-ball linebacker. Guys, tier 2, edge rusher. I know that's going to be shocking for some people, but that might be controversial also, but edge rusher is so valuable. I mean, really, you need to have guys. It's a position where having a rotational guy matters. I mean, after Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, the Broncos have a heap of who the hell knows at edge rusher, which is okay for it being the 3rd, 4th, 5th edge rusher. But, if you can get a first-round talent there to rotate and have a contingency plan going forward, that's great. I mean, the Super Bowl defense, you had not only DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller, but you had Shane Ray and Shaq Barrett. That mattered a lot. And so first-round picks, again, edge rusher, super valuable. Bradley Chubb has had 2 injuries on the same ACL, which don't discount that. That's important. If he has a third one on there, he could be done. He could be done, yeah, for real. Which is, I mean, knock on freaking wood. Would knock on all around. Who cares? And then Von Miller is going to be 31 next year. He's very expensive. So if you draft an edge rusher in the 2021 class, you're probably not replacing Von Miller immediately, but that player's sophomore season, so 2022, is when you probably move on from Von Miller. I mean, crazy as it is, Father Time comes for us all. And then you're still have that strength of Bradley Chubb and another first-round pick. You give yourself a good chance to continue that edge rusher dominance where you can get after the quarterback, only sending 4 guys continually.
Right. Well, and you look at really the Broncos since 2012. They've had Dumerville and Von Miller. Then they had 2013 where they didn't have Dumerville and Von Miller got hurt, and it was real mess there in 2013 with our edge rushers. But then 2014, DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller. And so when you have this kind of I guess I'm going to use a Star Wars idea here, but master and apprentice, when you got kind of that Superman or Batman and Robin kind of idea behind the pass rushers, it really matters big time, and how teams can play you, how they have to try to game plan for 2 guys coming at you. Again, you said it, the PFF just released 2015. The Broncos defense was the number 1 defense of the last decade. Well, it was because they had pass rushers coming from everywhere. Like, the secondary was great. The no-fly zone was great. But that front 4 was really underrated in what they brought to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Ruan coming in here. I love the shirt. The 2014 World Cup in Brazil, Nick. Brazilian right here. I'm not – Germany didn't have to do you like that. That was hurtful. They could have put on the brakes at 5-0, but it didn't work out that way. So I enjoy Brazil a lot. They have a fun team. I mean, those yellow jerseys are iconic, probably some of the best, the yellow and the blue. But I'm sorry. I remember watching that game and being just, I can't believe what I've seen before my eyes. So I guess we're talking about edge rusher here. What about the Broncos' backup edge rushers? We were going through these positions. We don't have much time left. We got to get to that tier 3, but there's Jeremiah Atachu, who's older, 2nd-round pick. Did okay last season when he came in. You have Justin Hollins. Is he going to be an edge rusher? He's going to be an off-ball linebacker. It matters for both those positions. And then you have
Malik Reed
and Derek Tuska. So again, I feel like it's cornerback, but like even more unknown. Obviously you have Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, but after that, it's like draw a name from a hat. You have a chance to pick the right guy. Yeah.
And I mean, I think of like Malik Reed last year. I think he showed he is a great backup caliber guy, but if you ask him to be the starter, he can't do it.
Yeah.
No, he started off the season looking pretty darn good. Preseason, he looked pretty darn good, but just the idea of him handling 800, 900 snaps for the season, you're not going to be excited about that. Atachu, like you said, he had a couple moments that were pretty darn good, but we'll just have to kind of see if he can continue down that same path, because even Vic Fangio was like, I wasn't really all that excited about that signing. And so Atachu played above what you thought he was going to, but even there, that still was average play. And then you're kind of relying on a couple other guys that are draft picks, that are late round draft picks to be something. And you said it earlier, edge rusher is not one of those positions you find a late round guy very often.
Yeah, Shaq Barrett and Chris Harris Jr. make no sense. 2 of the positions that's like there's the biggest drop off from first round to later, and the Broncos got 2 studs as UDFAs. Everybody loves to talk about Phillip Lindsay, undrafted free agent, and that's great. Running back, a little bit more celebrity there, but the fact that they were able to get Shaq Barrett and Chris Harris Jr. makes no sense. I mean, you don't get those guys once a decade, if not longer. And the Broncos got 2 of them almost like really close together. So Bill 1293 coming in here. Some interesting edge rushers and free agent next year. The Broncos, if they did part ways with Vaughn, Bosa, assuming that's Joey, Ingram, Barrett, Yannick Ngakoue, Olivia Vernon probably, Judon, Dupree, Kerrigan, Justin Houston, Trent Murphy, and Tack McKinley. That's a good point. I guess the biggest thing is if you're moving on from Von Miller, you're looking to pay that much money for another edge rusher when you have also Bradley Chubb's contract on the horizon. What's really nice coming back here to your Batman and Robin, the apprentice and the Padawan analogy is that when you use that kind of rookie contract, you can have one guy being paid that big money and then have one being I guess Bradley Chubb's still getting paid because of top 5 pick, but pennies on the dollar compared to what he'd get on the open market still. Let's be honest. If he was on the open market, somebody'd pay him big money. So you can kind of switch how you're paying those guys, where you have the older guy who's getting paid more money, then you have the cost-controlled rookie, and you just kind of rotate them in throughout each other. So once Von Miller moves on, you get Bradley Chubb paid, you get that cheap rookie, then you can just keep doing it over and over again, and you can still have a great edge rushing presence constantly.
Yeah. And, edge rushers, even average ones, get paid pretty well. I see this one from Bill. Robert Quinn got paid $14 million a year.
Yikes.
He's above average, but I wouldn't put him up there in the top 10 tier, or not even close.
Yeah.
And it's money that can get paid pretty big out there in today's NFL. So it is. It's a position you always want to keep having young talent coming back in. And if there's a guy there in the first round, you don't hesitate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just sets you up so nicely. You're going to use that guy too. You really will. So here's one coming in from Duke. Again, I catch crap with the statement. Mahomes is Randall Cunningham Jr. UNT. Eventually teams figured out Cunningham and solo Broncos defense with Mahomes. I'm waiting to see. Once Andy Reid retires, come back to me. We'll talk then. I mean, they have great weapons right now. Not paid yet. He has one of the best passing scheme coordinators in the game. We'll talk then, but Mahomes seems extremely intelligent, and the arm talent and the athleticism is unbelievable. So
Cunningham was the one. Was it the 98 season when he had Randy Moss and Chris Carter?
I think you're thinking of Culpepper.
Oh, yeah, Dante Culpepper. Okay, yep, sorry. No, you're right. I am interested to see when the talent starts going down, when Tyreek Hill isn't the 4.2 speed kind of guy that he is right now. 3-4 years down the road when he starts slowing down. Travis Kelce, when he starts slowing down. Are they going to be able to keep paying all these guys? How's that going to work? I saw somebody earlier say there's a good chance they won't be able to pay Chris Jones moving forward. We'll kind of see on that. But, when the talent around him starts going down, can he still perform at the high level that he is right now? It won't be as good. It'll still be great. Let's not sugarcoat it. He's still a great quarterback. His ability to escape pressure, to be able to move up in the pocket, move around in the pocket. I've seen somebody earlier talk about John Elway and his dropbacks. Well, part of the reason that John Elway could drop back so far really is because he was so athletic. He could step up real quick. He could escape that pressure. He wanted to get back as far as possible to get as much time to throw the football. It did lead to some sacks. It led to some broken up plays, but it also led to some greatness as well. And we've seen the same thing with Patrick Mahomes. The thing I would worry about more with Patrick Mahomes would be longevity.
You were right, Carl. That was before me. Carl was right, so we'll let him have that. It was Cunningham. I would have been a baby then. I'd have been really young. Let's see what year that was. 97, 98, 99. I was 5 years old during the 98 season. So
okay. Well, and he had a great year that year because he had some absolute studs.
Yeah,
with that offense. Patrick Mahomes, again, he is an absolute stud, but he is also helped by the talent around him. And good for the Chiefs for building around him. A lot of that talent actually was there before he got there. But even there, you got yourself a quarterback. You had the weapons to take advantage of it. And that's why the Broncos kind of copied exactly what they did. Said, you got these weapons, we'll get our quarterback the same weapons.
Yep. So, Carl, we're running out of time here. But last year, for me, I will go through it quickly. Guys, the offensive tackle is the only offensive position I have in this big board. Tier 1 is offensive tackle and cornerback. Tier 2, off-ball linebacker and edge rusher. Derek coming in and need a middle linebacker. That's one that we talked about here. Tier 3, it's going back to the defense here. It's safety and it's interior defensive line. Offense I think is probably more valuable in today's NFL. But just how the Broncos team is structured right now, you have a lot of young, cost-controlled guys in the offense. But the defense is expensive, older, and that means you're going to have to replenish it soon. So interior defensive line, they've spent third-round picks on Ajim and Jones. You'd have to see what those guys are first. Shelby Harris, 1-year contract. Terrell Casey, the same boat as A.J. Boye, where you could be moving on from him because he's older. He could have a dud season. It's a possibility. I don't think it'll happen. But he also has 0 dead cap. So if they need to move some money, can get beyond. Mike Purcell's okay. Nose tackle is only so valuable. Sorry, Jody, coming in there with nose tackle. But maybe getting a guy who can play the one technique in the nickel package as well. I mean, there's some value there. So interior defensive line is definitely one. The other one is safety. Broncos, their third safety right now is Trey Marshall. Who is Trey? I mean, I know who Trey Marshall is, but who's Trey Marshall, the player? Is he good enough to be out there on the field? They used Will Parks a lot last year. Yikes. And clips coming in the final 5-minute flood. Absolutely right. We're going to fly through it. So safety also, Kareem Jackson, 32 years old. He was really good last year, but he's really expensive. Really expensive. And that wall is coming soon. So safety and interior defensive line, that's more about getting strength in the depth, having a position that, the last half of those guys' contracts, they're solid. They're really good starters or better. But that's probably the ones where you're starting to get a little bit more. Like if there's a safety or an interior defensive lineman that is just that much better than every other position, you go that way in the first round, second round. Even though you need other positions more, that individual player is too talented. Yep.
No, you're right. I mean, and that's always going to be you have the exceptions to the rule. You and I were talking during the 2018 draft. Saquon Barkley, he was one of those running backs, like he deserves to go in the first round because he brings more than just being your average running back. He's a great pass catching back. He was great as a blocker. He had a lot more to bring to his game, kind of like McCaffrey. He is more than just a running back. That's why he's one of the few that's worth paying a second contract to. And we'll see if he actually lives up to that hype still. But it is. There's always those exceptions to the rule. And if you have a great safety, go get him. I mean, Derwin James, the guy that can play 1,000 positions, you go get that guy because he's phenomenal at all of them. And, this past draft was Simmons. He can play a lot of different positions. He's worth using a top 10 pick on to go get.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it just comes down to that individual player. If there's a first-round caliber defensive tackle, guess what? You're going to find ways to utilize him. You really are. If there's a first-round caliber, oh, man, Duke, we would stay on another hour, but Chad would not allow it. I got to go do puppy duty here. I want to come in and everyone drop a like really quick. Let's see if we can get it to 40. God, we'd really appreciate that if we can get it up to 40 today. But interior defensive line, you can use a rotational guy. And also, that first-round pick, Broncos probably not picking top 10 next year. If you're picking a deep interior defensive line, picks 15 to 25, let's say, that's a range, that guy's probably going to be rotational year one anyways. So, you can't just expect him to come in and be a Bradley Chubb or a Von Miller. Much more of the guys that you're going to be picking are going to be those Shane Ray, Bradley Roby types on the defense where year one and year two, they're getting snaps. They're coming in. They're getting usage. But they're not that, number one starter out of the gate. And hopefully the second half of their contract, that's when you can really see them to take over that mantle.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's exactly right. And so, yeah, I like that. He is, yes.
Chad is our boss.
He speaks, we listen. Thankfully, he's a good boss, so we like him.
Yes. We give him a hard time, but and he gives us a lot of freedom and leeway. If it was his choice, there's no way in heck we'd be talking about the Broncos' future needs and team building for 2021 right now. But guess what, Chad? We're doing it. And hopefully you guys appreciate it because this is kind of that next level stuff. We're not just talking about the news. We're getting above and beyond, the top of Bloom's taxonomy as far as the abstract concepts of team building.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, and this is kind of what brought Nick and I together. I mean, I was talking about playing Madden earlier. I saw somebody say I should stream my Madden games. You don't want that. I pretty much run about the same 5 plays over and over again. I'm one of the guys. Hey, if it works, use it.
You got to play guys online. That makes it that much harder.
I know. I don't do that because I know I'd get embarrassed. That's why I don't do it. But no, that's kind of how we came to build this podcast, was that idea of being able to build teams and realizing we didn't even like playing this. Well, we like playing the season, but we like the off season of being able to actually build the team up. And being able to look at the future and see what kind of needs we'd need and making trades in the draft, all those things. That's the fun thing for us. And so that's why talking about this kind of subject of looking at 2020 and looking at some of the weaknesses, but it's also then looking at 2021 of where are those holes going to start to develop? Because
and you can step up to change it.
Yep.
I mean, if Derek Tuska looks like Shaq Barrett, guess what? He needs shift. If Ajin comes in and is like, holy shit, this guy's a freaking nose tackle coming in day one playing that, but also one technique in the nickel packages. Guess what? You might not need to use an interior defensive line. So this can all shift a lot based on a lot of these unknown players that the Broncos have on the roster right now.
All right, we got one last question here coming in from James Campbell. And Jody, I do play Xbox, by the way. I'm never been a PlayStation guy since PlayStation 1. That was my last one. But building on some questions in the stream, since there's only so much cap to go around, would you move on from Von Miller to sign Chris Jones if he is undrafted free agent? Ooh.
Gosh, I don't know. I don't even think I can give you a great answer right now to that. It would depend on what Von Miller looks like this season, because you are accumulating a dead cap, and what the cap situation is like for the Broncos. I mean, if this cap constricts next year and the Broncos are, cash poor, not cap poor, but cash poor, and maybe you're not looking to do that because then you're burning money with that Von Miller dead cap. So it would be definitely enticing, though, with how incredible Chris Jones is, and especially having an inside and outside rusher, which I think is more important than having two edges in today's NFL yet, because you're going to play those guys off each other's twists and stunts. Chubb and Jones would be pretty epic.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I probably, I get a little bit cold-hearted when it comes to trying to build the team. And Chris Jones, he's younger. He has a lot of upside still left in his career, where Von Miller's, the wheels are starting to slow down just a little bit. He's still a great player, still a top 10 edge rusher in the NFL.
Top 7 last year in combined hurries, or combined pressures.
Yeah. And so it's easy to see that this guy is still absolutely talented, but you see a lot more good years with Chris Jones than you do with Von Miller. And so if we're talking even money, where cap-wise we're left at the exact same place, I'm probably going Chris Jones.
Man, ask me again at the end of the year. We'll get to it. But, guys, we got to get out of here. It's been an hour. Duke, we'd love to stick around for another hour for you guys. Actually, one more coming in here. Jay, you guys have a great bond at MHH. Have been here for years, and it's cool to see you guys evolve and grow. We appreciate that. I think our first year was covering the 2017 draft together. And remember talking a lot of offensive tackle that year, which not a great year to talk offensive tackles, unfortunately. And also talking a lot of Chiefs. Oh, the Chiefs had a bad draft, but if Patrick Mahomes hit, doesn't matter because quarterback's that important. Man, how right we were, unfortunately. Yeah. But I think the next pick they took Tano Passanio, which was a super reach. Hasn't done jack squat in the NFL. But Patrick Mahomes is such a hit that, you could burn that pick. It doesn't matter. But guys, appreciate you. Again, before we get on out of here, hit the like, share, subscribe. We got to 36. That's good today. That's good for a Saturday. We'll be back again Tuesday, very soon, guys. So don't go anywhere. That's going to wrap it up today. You can find Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler MHH and myself at Kendell MHH. Make sure you go on over to milehighhuddle.com. An affiliate of the Maven Coalition and Sports Illustrated. Go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. Make sure you guys find us again, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, wherever you're listening. Subscribe to us because you not only get Building the Broncos, which is the best show. I've seen a few people say that today. Appreciate you greatly. It's just because Carl has great hair. That's what it's about. That's what you guys are coming for. But you can subscribe and find all our shows there. Follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at BTB Football Pod. For Carl, I'm Nick, wrapping up another episode of the Building the Broncos podcast. Carl, before you get on out of here, Duke coming in again.
Yeah. All right, we got one more question, Duke. Making sure we stick around here for a second. Not letting you off this easy. How would you guys fix our defense?
How would I fix the defense? Goodness, that's a tough question because, what do you mean by fix? If I could add Champ Bailey, we fixed it.
Yeah.
It's a complicated question. It probably is what it is at this point. Maybe you can bring in, again, Darquez Denard, Logan Ryan. Maybe there's going to be a end of training camp kind of move they can make, but it's going to be more like a Duke Dawson get than bringing in a stud. So stay healthy. That's the biggest thing. Everyone stays freaking healthy. That the defense is fixed.
Yeah, if everyone stays healthy, if Bryce Callahan can be healthy, this is easily a top 10 defense in the NFL. You combine Vic Fangio and his scheme with this kind of talent that they have with the guys that they've added with Jarrell Casey, Of course, Justin Simmons coming back and Bouye being added to the secondary. If Ojemudia can actually develop into anything at the cornerback position, yeah, this could easily be a top 10, top 5 defense. I think a lot of, though, what you're going to have to rely on is that guys being the second year in the system and playing better than they did last year. You saw the improvement as the season went on. I think you're going to have to hope that continues on that same kind of level moving into this season.
Yeah, I mean, again, though, health. Bryce Callahan being healthy, Bradley Chubb being healthy, AJ Bouye being healthy. You're talking about a totally different defense. So if those guys can be healthy, Broncos got top 5 potential. If not, you're probably talking about in that 6 to 12 range. Just is what it is. And the AFC West becoming a very tough division. If you're not coverage in the back 7, you're going to have some issues. And that's where the Broncos are the weakest right now. So outside of the safety position. So, guys, I think that's going to get it. I saw that Buana said, wait. Buana, if you're listening, hello, anyone out there? No, just let us know what we were supposed to wait for. Maybe it was this comment from Duke.
I think it was the super chat.
Okay, good. But appreciate you guys. Carl, anything you want to talk about before we get out of here?
Nope, I think we covered a lot today. Can't wait till Tuesday, man.
Absolutely. We'll be back soon. Appreciate it, guys. Make sure, again, follow us on Twitter. I've been posting more golden retriever puppy pics than football takes these days. But, football's right around the corner. We'll be getting back to it. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you again on Tuesday. And as always, go Broncos.
You've been listening to Building the Broncos. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.